What's up guys, my name is Carl and welcome to Tech Hunter. So today I'm looking at the fastest ever GPU of 2010. That is of course the GTX 580, released in November of 2010. The 580 was a refresh of the Fermi based architecture that the 400 series of NVIDIA GPUs brought to consumers. Launching with an RRP of $499 or £399 in the UK, and boasting 512 CUDA cores clocked at 772 MHz and 1.5 GB of VRAM, it was a bit of a beast, later coming with 3 GB variants offering improved performance. But the one I have is a 1.5 GB and has a TDP of around 244 watts. As I mentioned, the 580 was a real powerhouse back in the day. It was the top card that NVIDIA had to offer in 2010, and it was also possible to run up to 3 of these in SLI, though for very diminishing performance increases. As NVIDIA show on their website, when paired with an i7 from 2010, GTX 580 was offering out some impressive FPS in games from that period, like Just Cause 2 and Dirt 2 for example, playing at decent frame rates at 2560 by 1600 resolution. The thing is, it's now 2017 and you can pick up this card for less than 10 times less than what it cost back then. I bought mine for £30. Funnily enough, from another YouTuber who you all know as Random Gaming in HD. He actually has a video of the GTX 580 over on his channel, probably this exact one because it's not really the type of thing you have many of. So if you want to check that out too, just click the link in the corner of this video, can't remember which side, but if you're interested to see how well it performs in the games that I test and how it fares with an overclocked i7 6700K, then keep watching this video for now. As far as inputs for this card are concerned, you have 2 DVI connectors and the incredibly unpopular mini HDMI. As a result, you may need some kind of adapter to use this with more modern monitors. I used a DVI to HDMI one as I already have one, but you can easily convert from say mini HDMI to HDMI fairly easily too. As I mentioned earlier, this GPU has a fairly high TDP and it's recommended that you use around a 600 watt PSU. A pretty substantial 550 watt from a reputable brand would probably be good enough. I partnered the 580 with a 750 G2 from EVGA, so I had no issues with the card's power draw. It's a fairly long card at around 27 centimeters, so you'd need a large case to house it, though when compared to my ASUS Strix 980 Ti, measuring at 31 centimeters, it seems like quite a compact card. Now, let's move on to benchmarking this card and see how well it performs in some more modern titles than what NVIDIA tried back in 2010. So first up we have PUBG. Obviously this game's in early access still, so we're running it at the absolute lowest settings due to its fact that it's pretty poorly optimized for running on various hardware. But you have to admit, averaging 90 FPS on this GTX 580 is pretty impressive. Obviously PUBG looks terrible most of the time, reminds me of an old Xbox 360 game really. But we're getting 1% lows around 55 FPS and 0.1% lows of around 37 FPS, which is definitely more than playable, offering you a good experience for this very demanding and very poorly optimized title for a lot of people really. Up next we have Rocket League, my favorite game, and I'll always mention it. I love to feature this game because it gives me a good chance to show off my slick skills. I'm joking, I'm not that good. I'm probably average at best. But we're getting 93 average FPS. The 1% and 0.1% are nice and close together. Really good, really solid performance. Running this on 1080p with the max settings, AA on, everything turned on. It's just good fun and good to watch on this GTX 580. Up next we have GTA 5. A very well optimized game. Running this on the low to medium settings with AA off. Obviously with GTA you can get higher FPS if you fiddle with settings, and it's always the same story. It's good fun, it's really well optimized for older hardware as well. If you think this card came out in 2010 and this game came out in 2013, you'd be happy with what you got. You'd be really impressed with how your old card is holding up for this game that's still pretty popular 4 years after its release. Up next, Battlefield 1. Released last year, we're playing at 1080p with medium settings. Obviously you could achieve higher FPS if you were to lower it down to the lowest settings, but I felt that we want to see how well this card can actually do. There's no point running all these games at the lowest settings and just getting decent FPS. We want to see how well it does when playing games that are a little bit more demanding and a little bit more demanding frames and different kind of textures. So I thought that medium was a good idea. Obviously the 1% and 0.1% slows are quite low compared to the average FPS, but at the end of the day, I don't really have any issues. It had a funny issue though. When you went into the menu, the FPS would kind of drop to around 30 and kind of stay there until you kind of went back into the menu, fiddled around with the settings and swapped it back. Up next is Doom, a game that I really enjoy. I love testing this one because it's always offers up really various performances. Obviously we're averaging pretty much a similar FPS what we had in Battlefield on Doom here, averaging around 49 FPS. The 1% and 0.1% slows are quite low, which did make it a bit stuttery when going from big explosion scenes to coming out from inside a cave to the big wide open world. But you could lower that again to maybe 720p for a little bit more FPS and make it a little bit more of an unplayable experience. Up next is The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, averaging around 47 FPS with the absolute lowest settings. It's a bit of it's hard to enjoy this one because I've played The Witcher 3 at 4K with everything turned on. It looks beautiful. When you turn it down to the lowest settings, it kind of takes the fun out of it because it's one of those beautiful games. It's really scenic. You like to enjoy what's going on around you. But when it's at the lowest settings, for me, it kind of ruined it. But at the end of the day, this 580 is playing it, no problem. 47 FPS is definitely playable, so it's a good result. Up last, we have Skyrim. Obviously, VSync is stuck on. That's just the way the old Bethesda game works from 2011 after all. But running it at 1080p Ultra, averaging that 60 FPS with a couple drops down here and there on the 1% and 0.1%, but really overall a good experience with a couple little graphics extras added in as well. So as you can see, when you pair the GTX 580 with a powerful CPU, it can still offer some impressive performance. Expect those numbers to be even higher with a Kaby Lake or Coffee Lake CPU too, which may mean that the GTX 580 would be a great stopgap if you're thinking of holding out for the new NVIDIA Volta GPUs, hopefully coming in 2018. If you've got a brand new mid to high end PC built or ready to be purchased, the GTX 580 for around £30 can give you some decent performance at an extremely low price. You could easily sell it for what you pay for it, maybe even a little bit more, as it really couldn't get any cheaper, as well as keeping you playing the latest esports games with no issues, and even some more demanding titles too. So now it's time for my conclusion. The hardest bit about reviewing an old card is the conclusion. When you pay £30 for a GPU and it actually runs modern games, then it's an instant plus. I could recommend this card to absolutely anybody with a 1080p TV or monitor looking to get into PC gaming. But the large power draw could be an issue, meaning they'd need around a 600 watt PSU as well if they didn't already have one, increasing the kind of total price for this GPU PSU combo overall, and it makes it a bit of a harder sell. But on the upside, it's a slick looking card and still has some fight in the old girl. As always guys, if you like this kind of stuff, feel free to click that like button down below. If you didn't, click the dislike button. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you thought about today's video. And if you decide that my face hasn't offended you, feel free to click that subscribe button so we can see each other again soon. Anyway guys, that's it for the video. I'll catch you in the next one.